Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our special webinar today dealing with the security situation prior to next week's election. I'm Eli Klutstein, the press coordinator at JPC. With the elections around the corner, critics are accusing the government of failing to crack down on terror spreading throughout the West Bank, Palestinian attacks against Israeli troops, and settler violence, at least until the recent activities of the IDF this week. At the same time, strategic issues such as the level of Israeli intervention in the Ukraine war and the forgotten nuclear deal with Iran still remain in limbo. Are policy decisions over these issues determined in light of the elections, or is the Israeli leadership doing its best in an unstable environment? To address these questions, our special guest today is Major General Reserve Gadi Shamni, Executive Vice President for North America and ICTS Europe, a global company specializing in aviation security. Prior to that, he was the Vice President of the Israeli aerospace industry. In the IDF, Shamni was nominated for several key positions, including Commander of the Central Command, Military Attaché in the United States, Military Secretary to Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, Head of the Gaza Division, and Head of the Operations Division in the General Staff's headquarters. General Shamni, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
So,
happy to be with you.
Let's start with the Palestinian issue. Lately, we have been experiencing a major spike in terror attacks in the West Bank. And until the past week, it looked as if the IDF didn't succeed in quieting things down. At the same time, following the latest operation in Gaza in August, things there seem peaceful for now. Is the government acting right? And what do you think it should have done differently regarding this situation?
Well, I would separate between the way that the government acts and the way that the IDF and security forces act. I cannot judge the way that the government acts, and I think that what the government should do here is provide enough freedom of action, freedom of maneuver in the right direction to the military, and I think that they do. The IDF, the Shin Bet, I think that they are doing the right thing. It's a different wave of violence than we have seen in the past. I mean, we had armed gangs like the one that is acting in Nablus. We had armed gangs, and we first have to understand how it all begins. It begins when you neglect certain areas, especially in very problematic regions like Nablus, the old city of Nablus, or the refugee camps. If you are not active inside there, it acts.
General Shamni, we can't hear you. General Shamni, we can't hear you. Maybe your reception
is right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay. So where did you lose me?
After you were talking about the old city of Nablus.
Okay, so places like the old city of Nablus, like the refugee camps, and everywhere where you neglect, and this is something that the IDF empowered the Palestinian Authority to deal with, and I think that they didn't deal with it in the right way. So it will take time, and I think that they're doing the right thing. The IDF is trying to separate between the mass people of Nablus and the terrorists and the criminals, but it's not that easy. That's why they had to put all those checkpoints and to have a partial closure around the region of Nablus in order to prevent attacks from going out easily and coming back to Nablus. I think that the last operation is a message that there is no safe haven, not even in the middle of the old city of Nablus. The IDF is acting, and I hope that the Palestinian Authority will take over as soon as possible, because in the Israeli interest is the Palestinians will deal with it. We don't want to be in those crowded areas with mass of population. We don't want the mass to suffer because of those terrorists. Now, the problem in the West Bank is that the availability of weapons is amazing. I mean, it's like if you looked at it 2 years, 3 years ago, there was a lot of weapons. Much of the weapons were local production or smuggling. Now we see those gangs armed with new brand M16 with modern sights. So it's a problem, and I think that the Palestinians in Nablus. That's why the IDF is acting so harshly, and at a certain point, I think that the wave will change the direction, or at least will be slowed down significantly.
Okay. The current government's policy was to increase the quantity and probably also the quality of confidence-building measures toward the Palestinians. So considering what's happening now, is this policy correct? And I also want to attach this question to another question we got now from a reporter from Voice of America. So actually, what will happen if after all of these measures, the PA will lose control of Nablus? And is this even a possibility?
I'll answer the second first. I don't think that it's an option. I think that the Palestinian Authority and the security forces are strong enough to deal with it. It's basically a matter of decision and determination, with the support of the IDF in a way. And you know, this is not something that we talk about too much, but there is a great cooperation between the Palestinian forces and the IDF. So I don't think that that's an option, that they will lose control, but they might have great difficulties. I think that they are strong enough in order to take over and to control the Nablus and the rest of the West Bank. They can do it in Jenin also. The reason that they're not doing it in Jenin is because of the fact that the majority of those terrorists in the refugee camp in Jenin, many of them are Fatah people, and this is something that the Palestinian Authority don't want to do. I mean, they don't have the internal legitimacy to deal with this. So it's, you know, they're in a limbo way. They understand the risk, and in Nablus it's a little different because of the fact that Hamas is very strong in Nablus, and that's a major threat for the Palestinian Authority. With regards to the measures that the government of Israel decided to put in the West Bank, the improving of movement and access, and more jobs in Israel and so forth. I think that it is very important. I think that many good things were done. I think that it's not enough. And the reason for that is that, you know, it's politics. I'm not an expert in politics, and I don't want to go to politics, but the structure of this government doesn't allow to take a decision either to the right or to the left. So they have to deal only on those things that they have consensus. Benny Gantz tried to do a few things. He did some good things. He couldn't go far enough because of lack of support of the rest of the coalition, this fractured coalition. And it didn't provide the Palestinian Authority with the credibility, with the legitimacy that they were hoping to get from the Palestinian people had they got more support from Israel, had they got more freedom of movement, had they received the ability to develop the economy, even if it has to do with sea areas and all this. So to your question, yes, the things that were done are good, are important. It's only halfway. It's only halfway. I mean, they didn't go far enough. They didn't do enough, and we didn't get the expected results of empowering the Palestinian Authority and providing them with the legitimacy to do what they need to do.
Okay, another question from another reporter, this time from Foreign Policy magazine, which is related to this issue. In the past, the IDF pursued a policy of differentiating between the terrorists and the wider population. Do you think the Operation Breakwater is going too far in pursuing the terrorists at the expense of the overall stability and welfare of the population, which might eventually could lead to a mass uprising, an intifada?
Well, to be honest, I don't see any other option right now. I think that the IDF the commanders of the IDF did their best in order to refrain from hurting the masses. But in the case of Nablus, there was no, I mean, the intensity of attacks that went out from Nablus forced the IDF to take these measures, and I'm sure that they will leave those measures as soon as things will stabilize a little bit more. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a military that has a mission, and they have to do it. So I don't think that it went too far. I think that there is a missing pillar here. So I mean, you can thwart you know, terror cells, you can kill terrorists, you can arrest them. And even if you do it surgically and you don't hurt the masses, the mass population too much, and you let people go out to work in Israel, even though, you know, it creates an atmosphere that might lead to more violence. And what we see in the last few months, we see an increase of violence, and it's quite steady. I mean, right until now, maybe in the last 2 days, there is some quiet because of the very successful operation, but I don't think that it will last too long. And the problem is that there is no political horizon here. There is no you know, the silver bullet of the political action is missing here, and on both sides, leaderships are not able to come with something, to move forward, to give some hope. And if you take this atmosphere and the massive effort that is being done by Iran, by the Hamas, supporting this violence, pumping money in order to get all this weaponry and to go to those attacks, it's very hard unless you change the atmosphere. If you change the atmosphere, and you cannot change the atmosphere by doing, even if these are very successful military operations, this will not change the atmosphere in the way that it should change in order to calm the area.
Okay, another question we have now from EFE, the International Spanish News Agency, is can the growing violence in the West Bank and the security threats change something in the upcoming elections? We know you're not a political expert, but maybe you can comment on that, how decisive security concerns may be in the decision on who to vote by Israeli citizens.
I'm not a political expert, but I can answer this question. Of course, it can affect. And that's the interest of Hamas, mainly Hamas, and it meets the interest of the very extreme right in Israel also. So they have common interest. They believe that the worse that it will be, the better it will be. That's their view of the world. So Hamas is, the strategic goal of Hamas at the end of the road is to take over the Palestinian system, to lead the Palestinian people, to take over the PLO, maybe even dissolve, abolish the PLO and create something else, which is not the PLO, but to become the leader of the Palestinian people in the West Bank, in Gaza, and in what they call the diaspora. An atmosphere of reconciliation, an atmosphere of political agreement, moving towards a political agreement will not allow them to have the legitimacy that they need in order to do their big plan. So for Hamas, violence can affect the election in Israel. It will take people more to the right. The chances to have some kind of political resolution, if you go far right, it does not exist. And that's the perfect arena for Hamas to proceed with his plan. An atmosphere of reconciliation is the worst thing that can happen for Hamas right now, because they won't have the legitimacy to do what they are planning to do. So Hamas now enjoys quiet in the Gaza Strip. Israel prefers to keep the Gaza Strip quiet, which is good, which is important. It wasn't always the case in the past. In the past, there were cases that we were attacking in the Gaza as reacting to things that happened in the West Bank. We are not doing it anymore because it's not the right thing. On the other hand, the fact that Hamas doesn't pay any price is an Israeli mistake. So if I talk about the Israeli policy right now, I think that the addiction for quiet in Gaza is very dangerous. So if you don't want to attack Gaza, no problem, don't attack Gaza. Have those workers come out every day. It's good for Gaza. I'm for it, no problem. But there is so much Hamas presence in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, that should be taken care of, and it's not happening because of this sensitive situation that Israel is with Hamas and with Gaza right now. And in the long run, I think that it's a mistake, and it might create a situation where Israel will have to do things that we are not happy to do right now, but we are in the corridor to this collision, because Hamas is getting stronger. They build Gaza, which is, I mean, which is good. I mean, as long as they do things on the civilian dimension, it's excellent. Construction, improve the economy, that's excellent. At the same time, they are building their military force. They are building their military capabilities, and without any interruption. And that's that might be dangerous, and then that will also prevent any future connection between Gaza and the West Bank, because Israel will not be able to take this risk to have Gaza and the West Bank connected in a way that people can move from Gaza to the West Bank, exchange knowledge, maybe smuggle weapons or whatever. So if you look at the big picture, we enjoy this quiet right now. I'm not sure that the soft going with Hamas right now is the right thing to do.
This might be a bit of a delicate question, maybe. From your experience, you've been in the army many years. You've probably been in in times where elections were looming. Did you see in the past, or do you see today, any connection between the political situation and the decision making by the Israeli leadership regarding the situation now?
Well, there's always a very tight connection between the political situation and the decision making. You know, these are politicians. I mean, they cannot ignore their voters and their supporters. So there is a tight. But I think that if I look at the security side of the picture, I think that the security system in Israel, the IDF, the Shin Bet, the Mossad, others, and there are others, are strong enough in order to keep the security interests as a main consideration when you talk about security. So I don't think that the chief of the chief of the army or the head of the Shin Bet will do things that they think that are not the right things to do, and they understand the political situation also. You know, they meet always with the prime minister, with the government, with the cabinet, and that's a good thing about the Israeli system. It's strong enough in order to create the balances that are needed, not to take the security strategy, not to allow the security strategy to divert in a way that it only serves a political interest of whoever it might be.
Okay, we're dealing again with the recent violence and terror attacks. One reporter is asking, are there any signs of direct or maybe indirect involvement of Iran and Hezbollah and other aerial actors in this activity, in this terror activity?
Of course. As I said, the incitement, financing. In order to get all this weaponry, you need a lot of money. I don't know if you try to buy an M16 in the market. It's very expensive, very expensive. It will cost tens of thousands of shekels. And when you see those gangs, they all are fully armed with modern weapons that cost a fortune. The smuggling is caused. Those people who go to steal from the IDF, they charge a lot of money. So Iran and Hamas are pumping money, lots of money, laundering money, and in different ways they are pumping money into this conflict in order to keep the flame burning, and it's very clear.
Okay, I have another question about what we saw lately, another phenomenon, which is FOUL, which was several incidents of violence by settlers against IDF troops. Do you think this activity represents many or maybe most of the settlers, or is this just a fringe group that needs to be dealt with?
Well, the issue of violence of Israelis against Palestinians in the West Bank is a very problematic issue. First, I have to say that the numbers are very small. This is not the majority, not even 99%. Not even 1%. I'm sorry, not even 1%. I think the majority of the settlers are people that live their life. And many of them even have good relationship with their neighbors. You know, there was an incident 3 days ago, I think, that an Israeli went into a village. He was stabbed. He was buying something. He just went to buy something in a grocery store in a nearby village. So, but there is a small nucleus of criminals that are not being taken care in the way that they should have been taken care. So the Israeli police in the West Bank is fully occupied with the security issues. It's a very small police force. It's not a force that is really capable to cover the area. The soldiers of the IDF are doing what they can do, but their focus is first and foremost security, to protect themselves, to protect the bases, the Israeli society, and they also protect the Palestinians that live there. But when it comes to a collision between Israelis and Palestinians, so at the maximum, I think that at the maximum, the IDF will arrive there, they will separate between the sides, and it might be that 1 or 2 or 3 Palestinians will be arrested. Israelis, even if they are arrested or detained, not arrested, detained, when they come to court, it's very hard to show the evidence that actually come to a level of something. So, you know, you have to have professional. I think that Israel should do more in order to prevent this violence, because at the end of the day, it harms not only Israel's interests and energy, it also harms the settlers themselves. And I think that many of them doesn't like it. Some of them, and there are some extreme people that are using, in a way, using those attackers by not preventing them, by not expelling them. I mean, there is, it's an issue. It's an issue that Israel should act better. The problem is that whenever you have a wave of violence, attention goes immediately to the security issues, and that creates a lot of vacuums that might create those problematic scenes that we see.
Okay, we're moving again to more geopolitical questions. We have maybe time for one or more or two questions. The American unofficially have expressed doubts and concerns maybe regarding the possibility of a government with Itamar Ben-Gvir as a senior partner. You've worked with the administration in the past, you've been the attaché in the United States. Do you think this could be a major obstacle?
No, I don't think so. I don't know what will happen in the election, but you know, at the end I hope that there will be a government, and it happens that there is a government in Israel, and the US doesn't like this or that minister, you know. So what? The only one who really deals with the US is the Prime Minister's office, and I think that, you know, it doesn't but you know, a minister, I don't, let's assume that he will be a minister, okay, doesn't really have an impact on the Israeli-American relationship discussions. This is not something that is being done, not even by the foreign ministry. That's an area that only the Prime Minister's office deals with, leads. The foreign ministry might get some chunks here and there, but basically it's being dealt by the Prime Minister, and usually, mostly Prime Ministers in Israel are responsible enough to not to damage relationship with the US, which is our greatest and the most important ally.
I think I want to finish with a question we can't actually ignore. Tomorrow it is scheduled to be signed, the maritime agreement with Lebanon. What do you think about this deal?
I think that it's an excellent deal. I think that every agreement with Lebanon that involves the government of Lebanon and the government of Israel is an excellent thing, because it goes in the right direction. There was, after 2006, there was a lot of criticism on 1701. And look what's happening now since 2006 in the North. This agreement is an excellent agreement because it doesn't harm the Israeli security at all. I mean, whoever knows and understands the details of this. So the ability of the Israeli Navy to protect Israel doesn't change. It gives Lebanon some economic horizon, and I hope that they will find a lot of money and deal with the economy instead of dealing with terrorism and enabling Hezbollah to drag them to the wrong places. And it doesn't harm the Israeli deterrence. All those who try to portray as if this agreement was done because of the threats of Nasrallah. I think Nasrallah is an excellent actor. I mean, he knows how to play with the media. He knows how to do it. Nasrallah is deterred. And I'm not sure that he would have opened fire, even if this agreement will not be signed. So I think that it's a great agreement, and every year of quiet in this region leads to more potential stability. It might not happen, but more potential stability. So it's good, and there's nothing to complain about.
This is very clear, General Gadi Shamni. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for all for participating in this webinar. I do remind you we are having another webinar this coming Sunday with Professor Gidi Rat and Professor Ofer Kenning from the Israel Democracy Institute. See you there. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
We hope you enjoyed that briefing by the Jerusalem Press Club. If you did, like the video and hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all of our future content.